Welcome to Maroon News, programme number 6. In this episode we hear about the old school in Maroon from Nora Coleman. We get up to date on club activities with Noel Regan and Philip D. Tom Seaver will tell us about the Twinning Project and Father Ryan will give us a thought for the week. Over now to Nora Coleman talking to Rachel White, Anne White, Niamh Buckley and Sinead Buckley.
Good evening, we are here today with Nora Coleman, Knockanera Maru, and we have a group of girls from Maru National School going to ask Nora about her childhood memories. We have Rachel White, Anne White, Niamh Buckley and Sinead Buckley, and all the girls are first cousins. And now the girls are going to ask Nora a few questions about her childhood.
What is your earliest memory?
About school?
Yes, Nora, about school.
Yeah. My aunt got rest her taking me by the hand into school, and I was very nervous. And my sister Bridie, who was also passed on, was with me also. But when I got into school and teacher made a fuss of me, I felt all right. And didn't cry anymore for the day.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Well, I had only one sister who is not with us anymore. She's gone to her eternal reward. Her name was Bridie.
Where did you come in your family?
Bridie was older than me.
Were you happy about that?
Yeah, I didn't notice.
What chores did you have to do after school?
Feed the cat and feed the dog.
Did you like feeding them?
I did. I was fond of them.
What age were you when you went to primary school?
I was 7 years of age, and the year was 1938.
What was your earliest memory of school?
As been very nervous about going, but when I got in then I felt all right.
How did you travel to and from school?
Walked, as was the way that time.
Did you have a uniform? If not, what clothes did you wear to school?
Oh, I had a uniform. It was navy gym slip with 3 pleats in the front, and my aunt, God rest her, used to make it. And she also knit our jumpers, and navy jumper and a white, well, it was short that time with a white collar out over it.
Did you have a school bag? If so, what
Yes.
type was it?
A brown leather school bag with a strap, or 2 straps, and you put it on your back, or your shoulders.
What did you have in your school bag?
A bottle of milk, 2 slices of bread, butter, and if you're lucky, a bit of jam.
What games did you play at school?
We played hopscotch.
Do you remember your teachers?
Yes, Miss Ryan and Miss Lee, who was later Mrs. O'Malley, and Miss Ward and Mrs. Ryan. Oh, God rest them, they're all gone to their eternal reward now.
And who was your favourite teacher?
Mrs. Ryan.
What subjects did you do in primary school?
In the lower classes we did tables and sums, and then as we, well, I suppose a bit of Irish and English, but as we went out to 3rd class then we did history and geography.
What was your favourite subject?
History.
Were the lessons hard?
Well, we thought they were.
Did you get much homework?
Yes.
How long did it take you to do your homework?
Well, by sticking to it, you'd have it done in half an hour.
Were you ever slapped?
I was slapped on the knuckles for my knitting and for my writing.
Do you remember if any inspectors called to the school?
Yes, I do. We had the inspector who examined different classes, and then we also had the diocesan inspector who used to come generally around May.
Who were your friends at school?
Noreen Grady, Noreen Davis, who has gone to her eternal reward, and Mary Fitzgibbons, who has also passed on. And there were others. Oh, Mary Kirby was still with us, and there were others in my class, but I was closer to those people, those girls.
Did you meet them after you left school?
Not much really, unless occasionally visited their houses.
What age were you when you went to secondary school?
I didn't go to secondary school. But going back to my early days of school, one very special memory I have of it. Every day, when the Angelus bell rang out from the church, the chapel above in Maroe, and the teacher, we all stood up, teacher stood up, she stayed the Angelus with us, and we had that half hour of catechism. And another very special memory of my school days was the May procession. The first Sunday of May, there was this special day, and there was a choir, and we all dressed in our First Communion dresses and veils. And people who were able to sing were in the choir, and some crows like me, we carried the little baskets of flowers. And I can remember well the bluebells and I can't think of the name of the other little ones. And as we came along, we came down the church, round along by what we call Moorside, back along the church and back in. And every so often you were strewing the flowers along the path. It was a beautiful memory.
Do you remember any special birthday presents?
Birthday presents that were very scarce when I was a child.
Did you have a birthday party?
No, I think I had to wait for my 80th birthday to have a big party.
Did you do anything special for Christmas?
Well, we were there was always an excitement coming up to Christmas, and you were thinking of Santa, but Santa wasn't as rich then as he is now. And if he brought you an apple and an orange, and maybe a little small copybook and a pencil, there were no biros that time, it was a big lot.
What decorations did you have?
Which was all natural. There weren't any artificial decorations that time, any bought decorations. It would be ivy and holly, and you might show flowers in the garden at that time, but there's some bit of greenery from the garden.
Did you send any Christmas cards?
I'm afraid not, child. Money was scarce that time.
Do you remember any presents Santa brought you?
As I said, there was what he did bring.
Did you have Easter eggs at Easter?
Only what the hens laid.
And did you go give up sweets for Lent?
Yes.
At Halloween, did you have any decorations?
Not decorations, but you'd have, well, what was very special at Halloween was the candle in the turnip. And it was always lighted on the eve of All Souls night. But what we did have was the snap apple. I would have happy memories of my school days. There was always an air of excitement that every day was different. But the last year in school, Miss Ryan, God rest her, she put on an operetta. That was the year 1946. And we thought, it was to the point we were going, it was up in the hall in Maroon. I know I was a peasant in it, and a good friend of mine, Blossom Tobin, she was the fairy queen, and but we thought it was lovely. We had a lovely, it was a kind of finishing up the year, and then she gave us a party after that, the finish up of that, and which consisted of lemonade and buns, but we thought it was a great treat. So I really hope now that she has learned something about what school was in my time.
Our club news today starts with Noel Regan of Maroe AFC, followed by Philip D with the Maroe Boher GAA club news.
These are the Maroe AFC notes for the past couple of weeks. Unfortunately, we had some bad weather which affected some of the matches, but there was still a good bit of activity, and the following are the teams that participated and how they got on. Our under 14 boys played out a high scoring draw at home to Manus with Paddy Kelly, Tyler O'Brien, Jake Shanahan and Keane Power all scoring for Maroe. They followed this up then with a cracker of a game against Galbally, and though they lost 5-3, it was a really brilliant game of football, and Tyler O'Brien showed his class with a superb hat-trick for Maroe. Our 13s also drew 2-2 with Holy Cross, with Liam Cunningham and Keane Power on the mark. Our younger under 10 boys drew 0-0 away to Holy Cross, and then they followed this up with the result of the weekend when they defeated Cappamore 2-1 to finish runners up in the league by just a single point. A brace from the prolific Killian O'Shea gave Maroe all 3 points. There was more good news on the underage boys front when Ben Hyde and Paddy Kelly were selected for the under 12 Limerick County Academy team. Keane Power, Sean O'Dwyer and Ben Cusick made the under 13 academy, and Jake Shanahan was selected for the under 14 academy. Well done to all the lads and to their coaches on this superb achievement. On the girls front, our under 10 girls received a walkover from Croom, and then they lost away to Kilmallock. Our under 12s also lost 3-1 to Kilmallock, with the prolific Anna Madigan scoring again for Maroe. The 12 girls then travelled to Ballylanders and came away with a 1-1 draw, and Karen Cunningham scored the vital goal for Maroe in that match. Our under 14s had 2 matches recently. They played Aisling Anacotty on Aisling's new all-weather pitch in a friendly which Maroe won 4-0. Anya Cook and Grania Regan scored twice for Maroe each. They then played Rathkeil in a league fixture where they lost 2-0, but they put in a fine effort on the day and indeed were unlucky actually not to win the game. Our 16 girls continued their fine season with a 2-2 draw with Rathkeil, with Kerry Moroney from the village scoring a brace for Maroe, and then we played Croom and the game finished 1-1, and we had one of the best goals of the season scored by Lisa Ryan with a 25-yard pile driver to the net. An interesting statistic on that weekend was that over 50 different underage girls played soccer for the club. On the senior front, our A's had 2 matches recently. We drew 1-1 away to Kennedy Park with Evan Walsh scoring. Unfortunately, the A's then lost 2-1 last weekend away to Knockany with Mike Ryan scoring. It was an unfortunate result because Maroe were by far and away the better team on the day. Just the netminder for Knockany just kept us out on the day, but it was an unfortunate result. However, the Bees had a very important league match recently where they played table toppers Myross, and they came away with a 2-0 win. Noel Ryan and William Clossy both scored for Maroe, and this result means that Maroe are still in with an excellent chance of winning the league title. So that's the update for Maroe AFC, and we wish you all the best.
My name is Philip D. I'm Secretary of the Maroe Boher GAA Club here in East Limerick. I just want to give you a brief summary of where we are at this stage of the year. In February, things are just beginning to kick off. Our senior hurlers started training last Wednesday night at the magnificent new facility at the North Campus at UL under our new senior hurling manager, Ger Hegarty. You'll remember Ger, he was He was centre back for Limerick there back in the 90s, a magnificent player, and he's making he's a well established hurling manager at this stage. Gerard, of course, is from the old Christians Club in Limerick. He supported in his work with Maru Boher in Michael John O'Brien and Sean O'Neill, who are his selectors. It is a completely new look management team. Maru Boher find themselves in the third group of the senior championship and will play Hann, Kilmallock and Knockany in that order beginning in May. So this is a tall order, but it might have been a much tougher group at the same time. We managed to avoid some of the bigger guns at least. March will be a very busy month also, with a new Model East Senior Hurling Championship being rolled out in 3 rounds in the month of March, the final in April. Hopefully we'll get to the final. And April also sees the start of the All-County Senior Hurling League. Maru Boher will host Hospital Herbertstown in round 1 on April the 7th of that. There was a highly charged atmosphere at the very well attended Wednesday night session, and our players are looking forward to the coming season and its challenges. There will be the junior hurlers also trained on Wednesday night under their manager Joe McNamara and selectors Johnny O'Brien and Ollie Foley. Team management are determined to achieve in 2012 and to follow the example set in the neighbouring parish of Cappamore, which of course was exemplary last year. We also have a particular focus on our minors this year, which is under the auspices of the senior club. We have no minor football this year in Maru Boher. We're focusing entirely on hurling. We started training on the 8th of January, so that's probably about 2 months before anybody else, and if spirit is anything to go by, this will be a very serious outfit this year. We hosted Mulcair Gales, which is a combination of Newport and Ballynahinch, recently in a challenge game in Boher, and as they say, we sent them home early. We are entered in a minor hurling blitz being held across the county on the 25th of February and March the 10th, with 3 games each day, and serious work is underway to prepare for this. The City East Minor Hurling Championship begins on March 30th with the opening round in Maru against our neighbours Cappamore. Minor management is myself, Philip D, Mike Kett, John Kennedy and Tom Lynch. Thanks very much.
Maru is twinned with the French village Ep6recut. Tom Sievers will now tell us about the twinning project activities.
I want to talk to you now about Maru Twinning Project. You probably know that Maru is twinned with a village in France, Ep6recut. You'll notice that it has 2 words in its title. It's a bit like Maru Boher. Avery would be the larger part, it would correspond to Maru. Gregy then would be like Boher, the minor part. And the 2, Avery and Gregy, are about 3 miles apart, something similar to Maru and Boher. And that's one of the reasons why we chose Ep6recut as our twin town. And you'll ask, how did it all begin? Well, we have to go back to 1994. In that year, there was talk of twinning, and a small group of people, they included Dennis O'Malley, Father Mark Tierney, and Paddy Horrigan, who was county councillor at that time. The 3 of them got together and formed a committee. Dennis went in as chairman and I went in as secretary. We had discussions and we went to talk to the Institute of Public Administration in Dublin. They're in charge of twinning in Europe. And they sent us a list of towns that would be suitable for twinning. And after a lot of consideration, we decided on Ep6recut as the most suitable town. Our next step then was to send a deputation out to Ep6recut. I think 4 of us went out and we had a look at the place, very similar to Maru, out in the country, about 25 miles from Paris. and in a farming area, except their farming was quite different from the farming around Maru and Boher, whereas we have dairying and cattle rearing. Theirs was completely tillage, and there were only 5 farms in the whole district. We paid a visit to one of them, and it was very interesting. And these farms go into thousands of hectares. It's all plain, there's not a hill in sight. Anyway, to make a long story short, in 1997, on the 18th of May, in fact, a formal twinning agreement was signed between Maru and Avery Grégy. And you'll see the certificates of twinning in the Maru Community Hall as well as in the Town Hall of Avery Grégy. Now, how does twinning work? Well, in the first place, twinning is, if you like, to foster good relations between towns in different countries. It goes way back to after the Second World War, where after a long 6 years of war, peace was on the agenda. And the idea of towns twinning was very much in the minds of the statesmen in those times. And the fostering of good relations, if it began with towns, it would surely spread to nations. And in our case, how we foster good relations is by going to each other's towns every year. Now, one year, a group from Maru will go to Avery Grégy. The following year, a group from Avery Grégy will come to visit us. And what do? Well, first of all, we have to accommodate them. And accommodation sometimes can be a bit of a problem. If a group of 25 or so come from Avery Grégy, we have to accommodate them in our houses. And similarly, if our group goes to Avery Grégy, they will accommodate us in their houses. So it's, I feel like, a free holiday. Twinning is like that. It's really good for getting holidays at very low cost. Now, who pays for it, you might ask? Well, there were two sources of finance. The first was the European Union itself. It had a subcommittee set up to foster twinning, and there were grants for the towns, for the twin towns. The other source was the local authority. In our case, Limerick County Council were very generous, and they gave us grants up to fairly recently. And well, we have to fundraise from this on, because grant funding has more or less dried up. So we pay for our own airfares, if you like, over to Paris or going over to Avery Grégy, and they pay for theirs. Fundraising, I suppose, helps to defray the cost. So we've been twinned with Avery Grégy now for the best part of 15 years, and it's been a great success. We've been to their houses, the houses and homes of the French people, and they've been to ours. It's a great way of getting to know people. People will often say, oh, the French are a stuck-up crowd. But when you get to know them, they're just like ourselves. Then they have their problems. They maybe have a different way of looking at things. They're not as religious as we are now, but they have virtues of their own. And they're just mad to come to Ireland. This part of Ireland is places that we take for granted, like the Clare Glens, Glenstall Abbey, Cashel, the Cliffs of Moher. They just go mad about them. They can't see enough of those places. Then when we go to Paris, when we go to Avery Grégy, at least they bring us to Paris, and we almost know Paris better than we know Dublin. It's as easy as that, really. And then they brought us to other lovely places around France, different places that are near Avery Grégy. There's also the French language, of course. when we go on twinning visits, we often have discussions. Discussions can range from local government, education, tourism, and topics like that. And we have to, if you like, have a modus operandi of communicating with each other. Now, funny enough, the French people are much more fluent in English than we are fluent in French. So usually these conferences or little meetings that we have, they're bilingual, and somehow we always understand each other. Interpretation is, I suppose, easy when you have people occasionally, well, nearly always you'll have people who are fluent in English on their side. So that's the twinning, and what can we say about the future? Well, I can only say that twinning is a wonderful experience for anyone, and I've given over now as secretary to Catherine Willis, and she's carrying the torch. The chairmanship has gone to Tom Holmes of Tubber, and he's doing a great job. We're trying to get more people interested, and we hope that, having listened to this little chat, maybe you'll find an interest in it too. Thank you.
Father Ryan's thought for the week completes today's programme.
My colleague Father Thomas Hearn, I should say now, my former colleague Thomas Hearn left us last week, and he has moved off to a new parish, the parish of Borrisalee. And it is said that leaving moving house is one of the most difficult things we have to do. So it's a bit traumatic, and people have been asking me over the past few weeks, why does a priest have to move a parish at all? When he's doing well in the parish and making friends, and what's the purpose of moving? I suppose the answer is simple enough, that we signed up for this. On ordination day, the bishop asked, do you promise obedience to me and to my successors? And of course we answered, I do. And anyway, priests die and priests retire, and vacancies are created, and therefore these have to be filled, and priests then move from one parish to another. But it is never easy. My thinking about moving from one parish to another is that, well, I pull down the blinds on the parish that I have left, try and forget what was going on there, and get stuck into the new parish. And people are much the same in every parish. There are people who have problems and worries, and our job is to try and go in there and work with people. We can never please everybody, of course. Even Jesus couldn't please all the people all of the time. There is a little bit written about the parish priest, comments made about the parish priest in a typical Irish parish, and it goes like this. If his homily is longer than usual, he sends us to sleep. If it is short, he hasn't bothered to prepare it. If he raises his voice, he is shouting. If he speaks normally, you can't hear a thing. If he's away, he's always on the road. If he's at home, he's a stick in the mud. If he's out visiting, he's never at home. If he's in the presbytery, he never visits his people. If he talks about finances, he's too fond of money. If he doesn't, the parish is dead. If he takes his time with people, he wears everybody out. If he is brief, he never listens. If he starts mass on time, his watch must be fast. If he starts a minute late, he holds everybody up. If he is young, he lacks experience. If he is old, he ought to retire. And if he dies, well, of course, no one could ever take his place. So, we are a privileged people, you know, priests, to be working with people every day. And there are sad days, and there are good days. Even since Christmas now, I had two very difficult days with funerals of little children, premature child, and then a little stillborn baby, and I find that awfully difficult. Trying to bring a bit of consolation to people. It is never easy, but we have many, many great days celebrating events like births and marriages, all that, and that's important too. I have a little book here, it's called Spiritual Journeys, and there's an input here from a Jesuit priest who spent a summer out in Calcutta working with very poor people, the sick and the dying, from little children to elderly people, some dying of malnutrition. And one day he said he took a little break from this after a few hours, and he went outside the clinic or the hospital, and he saw a prayer posted on a pillar. And I'm going to read this prayer now because I think it's a beautiful prayer. And it says, "Dear Lord, the great healer, I kneel before you, since every good and perfect gift comes from you. I pray, give skill to my hand, clear vision to my mind, kindness and sympathy to my heart. Give me singleness of purpose, strength to lift at least a part of the burden of my suffering fellow men and women and children, and a true realization of the privilege that is mine. Take from my heart all guile and worldliness, and with the simple faith of a child, may I rely on you, Lord Jesus." So priesthood is all about service to people. And I make this point, and I think it's very important. The priest has to have the love of his people. That is important. And so if he has, God is healing through him and through like-minded people. He heals the broken-hearted, especially those who are so often forgotten about, people on the fringes of society. And Jesus works through us when we show love and compassion and patience and understanding. It is a fantastic vocation, and we are privileged people. So I wish Father Tom Hearn well, and the other priests who have moved to different parishes, and I welcome our new priest, Father Lachlan Brennan, to our parish here. I pray God's blessing on them and on their ministry. Thank you.